a lot of top talking points. Relationships, parent, son, husband, wife, all of the above. We're going to talk about sexuality. We're going to talk about the challenges of being biracial. Tyus, you're a biracial kid, as am I. I'd like to welcome my two guests to the show. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me. So this is a mother-son relationship.
I'm Vonda, and this is my son.
Tyus, yeah.
Tyus, I want to begin with you. In terms of biracial, I am a product of a biracial family. My father was Caucasian, my mother was African, and there are some challenges that go along with that. Do you experience any challenges with identity?
Oh, like with what race I am? Yeah, I think growing up it was difficult because I mean, you see my mom is like white and I'm like a little tanner. Um, but yeah, I think growing up and honestly, Dalen would also be a good person to ask this question about. But I think just growing up, I didn't really know like what to really identify with, like with race in general. I think my white side, there was times where I wasn't seen as white enough, and then also on the black side, like I wasn't seen as black enough, if that makes sense. So I never felt like I really fit into any box, if that makes sense. That's just my experience. I was bullied for having braids, for example, like in middle school. I was told by a white kid I wasn't, black enough. I don't know. It was difficult growing up because in Las Vegas, we live in a very diverse, area, but at the same time, with sometimes where you live in such a diverse area, there's a lot of different opinions on what diversity should look like and what.
Thank you for watching this podcast. I invite you as the viewer to participate, to share your experiences. Are these topics that you relate to? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Can you add some value to the conversation? Please, in your debate, in your agreement or disagreement, please keep it respectful and kind, as the objective is to bring value to a community of parenting of neurodivergent children who are suffering and experiencing social challenges. Thank you.
What diversity should look like and what you are. So I don't know. That's sort of what my experience has been as someone who is mixed.
We have similar experiences. I have additional layers. I'm Belgian, but I have an English accent. I was born in Africa, but now I'm a US citizen. And there's always been this challenge that you mentioned. I was too black to be white, but I was too white to be black. I'm too American to be European. I'm too European to be American, and it gets very confusing. Fonda, I want to quickly switch to you and understand from your side of the equation. As a white woman, how do you raise a child who is partially black culturally? What did you have to do to find ways to identify, to understand what, one, your husband might be experiencing, what your sons are experiencing? What was that journey like for you?
Well, he came out to me first, and he came out when he was 12 years old. And as far as the racial thing, I it was difficult. I'm not gonna lie, because like he said, he did get bullied when he did have braids in his hair. There was a kid that cut his hair, cut the braid out of his hair on the school bus. So,
Can you break
and
that
this,
down? Can you break that down? I mean, do you literally mean some kid just walked up to you with a pair of scissors, grabbed your hair, and just, is that literally what happened?
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And so when he came home, I was just, I don't know, it went on. He had a lot of experience with this. And this is actually like he had kids chase him home. And my older son was at home at the time. I was, of course, working. And the kids were throwing rocks at him. Rock hit him in the head and split his head open. So, my other son opened up the front door and let him in and closed it and locked it. And then he called me and said, I don't know where he's bleeding, because it was just all over his face. So I immediately rushed home, looked at his
Now,
head and stuff.
as you're rushing home as a parent, what goes through your head? Because you're a parent, you're supposed to protect. You've obviously raised your kid very well. You have protected him, but there are moments when you are just simply helpless. On that drive home, Are you understanding what's happened? What's going through your head?
I'm understanding what happened because had been going on. And this was middle school. I think middle school is the worst for bullying.
Yeah.
But I just, on the way home, I was like, what am I going to do about this? This has to stop. This has to be the end of this. Like, how am I going to do this? I mean, I was thinking all kinds of things, paying a kid to go beat up the other kids, all these things. So
Know a
how I
guy
could
who knows a guy?
yeah. So because I knew I couldn't do that. So, but it just, all these thoughts, because you love your kids so much and this is happening and it shouldn't be happening. So whether it was that they thought he was gay or it was a race thing or whatever it was, this was a constant worry for this kid. And the
So
difference being is, because my other son is, of course, biracial too. He was just very quiet and
But I will say, on the biracial standpoint, I don't feel like I was really fully towards that per se, as much as just being gay,
I
being more
wanted,
plain with it, which I
yeah.
know we'll get into later. But yeah, I think that that was really the big stigma, like for me, like that was what really made me different, compared to being biracial. But like I said, I think being mixed still had a lot of issues in itself. I think just not being able to fit in, but that's just one more box against also being gay.
So now that
and
you've
so
opened that door, and go ahead, Vonda.
well, so on my way home, I got there, we managed the problem, and then I found out that it was a kid in the neighborhood, a black kid in the neighborhood who had done this, thrown the rock at him and whatever. So this time I wanted to file a police report because at the time he was telling me things, but I didn't realize it was the same kid.
Right.
And so the police came over, we went through the whole thing and then come to find out later that he knew his mom, the bully's mom. So they
Yeah.
did nothing about it, but just took a report. It continued to keep happening. So I ended up calling the school because now it wasn't just on the way home from the bus, but it was also at school. And then my husband said, you know what, Tyus, I'm going to give you permission to fight. You're not going to let these people push you around. And I mean, it was old school way, but you know
Okay,
what?
so I want to ask Tyus's opinion. When you've been given that permission, there are two schools of thought. One is you take the high ground and you're above that and you're better than that and you don't react and it's not a personal thing and you should just be oblivious to it. And then there's the part where, you know what? Yeah, do fight back, put these bullies in their place. When your father gives you that permission, what's that response from you internally? What's going on in your heart, in your head?
I don't know. I mean, because at the same time, like, in the real world, and even as I've gotten into adulthood, it's like I've had like issues like with certain people, just for being gay. And it's just in the real world you fight back. Like, you don't just sit there and take the punch. Like you have to fight back. I mean, especially if the if schools aren't going to do the things that are going to protect you and you have to take sometimes you have to take things in your own hands.
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, you said both of you have said nothing was done about it, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Then
Mhm.
because I know a lot of parents forget the racial, forget the gay. Let's just focus for a second on bullying. A lot of kids experience bullying. We hear
Yes.
stories where schools kind of turn a blind eye. As a parent, as a victim of bullying, there's that level of powerlessness, helplessness. Do you just get angry? Is it now I'm going to go on a mission to get revenge on the bully? Do I want to go and be an activist and change the system? Where do you begin?
Okay.
So what I did is after all this was going on, and he did get in a fight with the kid. So, yeah, one of them. Anyway, we had to go down to the school and have this meeting, whatever, but we could not meet with the other kids' parents. they refuse to do that. So I have no idea what they're going to tell their kid. They came to us and said, well, if even though he was the aggressor, not Tyus, but the other kid, we have to suspend them both. And I said, what does that mean?
That fair?
No, it's not fair because he's put up with the bullying so much and he's reported it to the deans, by the way.
Well, and they also during that time, so what happened was just to give you perspective, this kid was like flicking your ear in math class, and I told him to stop and he wouldn't stop. So I took a book and smacked him with it. And he got upset. So by the time we went out into the hallway, he grabbed me. Like I was walking to lunch and the kid grabbed me and pushed me against the locker. And that's when we started fighting. And then, the science teacher came out and, got in between us. But no, it's not fair that I was suspended. And the reason why I say that is because he was the aggressor, like I said, in the real world, like, it would be self-defense, right? Like if you hit someone back because they're hitting you first, that's why I don't understand, like, and it's weird because I see like videos all the time on kids fighting, like on Twitter, which is kind of crazy. And I don't know if it's still the same way nowadays. Like I haven't been in high school for 10 years, but back then, I don't think that it was fair to punish two kids. It should be the aggressor, right? That
Yeah, so after all of that, then I decided I was at some friends' home and we were sitting down talking about it. And there's a whole bunch of us there. And we decided to start something. It was called Flip the Script.
Oh, so
it
you
is,
did take
it
action.
is, oh yes, I did. I'm not one that's going to sit by and let that happen. I am not. So if anybody knows me, I am not that way. So I took action against the school and I did call the school and say, if something happens to him, you guys are going to be liable for this because we've reported it. We've done everything we can to avoid it. And now you guys are not doing anything about it. Well, they end up calling me back and saying, well, what can we do about this? How can we do something that you think is going to help? So I brought up the flip the script thing. So they opened up a club and Tice was the ambassador to that. And we were lucky enough to go and speak at schools and to the deans and teachers about bullying and how it has affected him and how if you don't do anything about it, the child's going to continue to lose himself. And that's the least thing I wanted to do. So, it just, I don't know. I took things into my own hands and
It's called Flip the Script.
yes, flip the
Is there
script.
is there an official website people can find, or how can they become a
I
part?
believe so, and I believe some of the schools have clubs in them.
yeah, we
So,
opened I did a club at Liberty High School here in Vegas or Henderson, I guess technically, but we had a club here. I honestly, to be honest, it's been so long. We don't really know if it's
well,
around.
I know.
But
So
yeah.
because I've stayed, I just wanted to make sure it kept going.
Yeah.
And the teachers have kept it going at Liberty. I don't know if any other schools, because once he left, he was on student council and
Tyus, your mum takes action. She steps up. What does that say about your mum? How does that make you feel as a kid, as a child, as a teenager, that my mum's got my back? What does that do for you?
I mean, she's the best mom in the world. Like, I mean, there's nothing more I can say. Like, my mom has always been very, very supportive, like for both me and my brother, like through our education, through, I mean, honestly, it's actually kind of insane how even through everything like, I did really good, like in class, like and my mom was always on top of us kids just being successful, and to be able to have that support, I don't know without that support if I would have been able, maybe I would have flunked out of school. Like I don't know, so I think just having that support system there, I don't know if every kid has that. And it's really
Um,
sad to think about, because while I was bullied really severely, I think that there's kids out there that are bullied just as badly and they don't have that support. And maybe they're bullied by their parents too, for being gay or being whatever they are. Um, and
I
that
want to talk about the coming out part, the being gay part. Vanda, as a parent, is it something you kind of saw, knew as a parent, or was it like, oh my God, son, when did this happen?
Okay,
What?
well, no, it was not because no. So, anyways, this is how it happened. Sorry, son,
no,
but the story's gonna come out. So I get out of work one day and I see my phone has a text and it says, Mom, I need to tell you something really important. And I'm like, oh, I know, he's gonna come out to me. So I just knew and how he was wording it that, it was nothing that happened at school, but it was for him. And so I said, okay, when I get home, we can talk about it. And so he came in my room, and as open as I am, okay, as open as I am, my brother was on AFAN, which is the AIDS Foundation. I was involved in the HRC stuff, donating and doing stuff for that, which is human rights campaign. Um, it was it was funny because I already knew, but I wanted him to tell me. I was not going to say it. I wanted him to tell me because then I feel like if he did it himself and I wasn't just like, oh, just, I already know. I wanted him to do it because I know it was a hard thing for him, but then he would take ownership of who he was.
Before I
Um,
get to Tyus to understand the flip side of the story, Vanda, as a parent, what do you think you did? What do you think parents need to do to provide and create a safe place for their child to have these conversations? Because I can imagine for the children who don't have that, the burden, the pain, the fear, the intimidation. But you obviously provided. What do you think you did as a parent, and what advice can you give for parents to provide that safe place?
Well, first and foremost, and this might have been kind of hard for the kids, but I did not allow them social media until they were 18, till I knew that they could deal with what was being said and things like that. So that was one thing, is they weren't allowed to have Facebook,
That's tough. That's tough
Instagram.
love. That's tough love
It
because
is. It's
everybody
tough
now.
love, but I also want to protect them too. So, there was a lot of suicides going on with bullying, with being gay, all of those things at that time. There was a lot. I mean, so for me, I was a working mom. So I worked, 10 hours a day shifts. And when I came home, the least thing I would want to do is have to look through social media to make sure that they're doing. That's just time wasted away from them that I can't. So I blocked social media for them. Another thing we did is we had dinner every night, and there were three things I would ask about their day. I would tell them, ask questions, three questions to each of them, the same question. And then I would find out things that were going on at school that I had no idea, a certain drug called, bubble gum, something, they tell me these things and I'm just shocked at what is out there that as a parent, you don't know. So
Yeah,
by opening up doors and talking about your day with them at the dinner table, that's what we did. You know,
beautiful.
uh, yeah, so I just yeah, that's what we did. I think it worked pretty well
So
because he
on
was
your side,
very open with me.
yeah. So Tice, on your side of the equation, you've got this secret, this weight that you're carrying. You reach a point, first of all, two things. When did you yourself identify like I am different in terms of my sexuality? I'm different. And then I'm going to tell my mom about it. What's that journey like?
um, so I kind of well, yeah. So I knew I was gay when like I was pretty young. Like it was like I had crushes on girls like in elementary school, but I think with sexuality, certain things happen when you go through puberty and stuff, and you start realizing, oh wait, no, I like men, right? And so at that point, I just kind of accepted it, like
Was that a
internally I was
struggle? But was that a struggle
It
for you?
was at first. It was, but honestly, now I think about it, it didn't take that long for me to accept it. I think at first, like I would be at night, like thinking about it, like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, right? Like this is just a phase or whatever. But by the time I sort of accepted it, I went obviously, I go to mom first for everything because as she said, like having those like open conversations at the dinner table like helps build that like trust with her, like in a not just a parent relationship, but like a friend relationship too, and so when I went to tell her, I texted her, I was like, hey, like I have something to tell you. It's gonna change possibly, our lives, whatever. And I was 13 at the time, I think, 12 or 13 when I came out. I think it was 13.
Yeah.
So she came home and, me and her were in, her room and I just started bawling my eyes out and I couldn't say gay. I was like, Mom,
Why?
I'm
Why?
homosexual.
Why? Break that down.
Homosexual.
Break that down. What is it about that word that you couldn't vocalize it?
Gay because I was bullied for being flamboyant. So like at that time, it's a little different now. I feel like, well, being gay is like I feel like we're sort of going back to old ways again, and
Yes.
that's a whole different topic. But back then being gay was seen as, not a good thing, right? This is like by the time like gay marriage wasn't legalized or, there was still a lot of issues with that. And so, just the word gay had a lot of, it had a lot of
Stigma.
like weight to
Stigma.
it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Taboo.
stigma
Yeah.
and weight to it. And so I think now it's like, by this time, or by the time I had to tell her, like I just couldn't say the word gay, which is kind of weird. But at the same time, I just think I was so like I had such, I guess, PTSD. I don't know what you would call that from the word just gay that like I couldn't even say that word, Um, but now I say it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does. But at the same time, when he said, I'm a homosexual, I burst out laughing.
Oh,
It's like, I looked at him, I said, son, don't ever use that word again. I said, just say gay,
Yeah.
you know.
so Vanda, as a parent, what's that feeling? Your son just came out and shared one of the arguably most personal, private things as a 13-year-old. What does that feel like for you?
Well, I mean, for me, I was like, I kind of already knew, so I was expecting it to happen one day. So I would already have prepared myself and whatever. But I think it was really hard for me to see him struggle so much to tell me when, I was in, the gay community all the time. My best friends were all gay. So my brother's gay. So he's been around it his whole life because he would come with me over to my friends. And of course, his uncle was gay. And so I was just surprised that even that he knew I would be accepting of it, that he had such a hard time with telling me. So I could only imagine if a kid and their parents weren't like that or didn't, I can only imagine how that would be for them.
I want to bring that up for parents who don't have the open-mindedness to embrace. I have a few friends who over the last couple of years have shared my daughter's transgender, they're gay and they struggle with it. You've gone through it. Is there any advice? Is there some parental insight that you can share with how does somebody who struggles with this situation, how do you soften the blow? How do you embrace your kids for who they are? Is there advice?
Well, one thing, they need to be empathetic because they're telling you something that is so, you know, they don't know how I'm going to react or another parent is going to react. So you need to listen to your kid. You need to be open with them, allow them to express how they feel. Um, and that comes down, like I said, it can be at the dinner table. It can just be you and that person together in the car. But I think when you see that as not being an easy struggle for a gay child at all, it's not. It doesn't matter who they are. They're going to go through a space where it's, I wish I wasn't this way, or I hate myself because I'm this way. A lot of my friends had that growing up because a lot of them were Mormon. And having that stigma with religion, it, that's the big part, I believe. I believe that when things are told to certain people, like I grew up Mormon, and it just, there's something there that just wasn't right about how you treat other people. Um, I don't know. For me,
So,
that's my.
so that ties into a really good question. Religion can potentially be a factor. Why are people homophobic? Why? What does that come? What do you think it fundamentally comes down to?
What, you go ahead.
Oh, like from the religious standpoint, like
Any,
why?
any
Or just
standpoint,
any.
why would
Um,
somebody be homophobic?
just because I feel like, people don't, well, I just feel like people aren't, they're not used to it. The other thing is like, or they never had gay people in their life, right? I think that it's just ignorance in itself, and not to be mean or anything. It's some people just never had a gay person in their life, so they think it's weird or different,
Or some
or
believe it's a
or
choice.
it's a choice, which I don't know nowadays. Like I know people have, been more accepting nowadays, but there's still people that, are still like that, right? The other thing is it's just like I feel like some people are, they just don't, they see it as a masculine and feminine thing. So like if you're gay, like, some people are think men should be a certain way and women should be a certain way. And I don't know, I just think it's like old school way of thinking. And
They need
for
to be educated.
they just need
I
to be
agree.
more open-minded, right?
I,
Like
so
uh,
you
yeah.
brought up the Mormon church. I don't want to go down the path of any religion bashing. It is a quite an extreme belief system. How did you break
Mhm.
free from that? And was the fact that you've got a gay son, a black husband, did those components lend to you needing to separate yourself, or was this just internally you felt it wasn't right?
I think my whole life I questioned everything. I even today, if I don't know something or what, I go read about it. And that's how I taught them to be like, know both sides and then make your decision. Um, but yeah, growing up, it was difficult. Like, I remember they said I had to read the Book of Mormon before you're even baptized. And I remember I did not do it, but
I
um,
actually
be,
read the Book of Mormon. I was curious. I read it. Some very
yeah,
surprising, shocking things that inspired anger. Some things are valid, but
yeah. And I just feel like as I was reading it, it didn't make sense to me somehow. It just never resonated with me. I went to church every week. I did everything like that, but for me, there's a lot of things with religion that I didn't agree with. Like I mean, Black people being able to join the church. Well, it was pretty late when they were able to join and have
yes, I think it had to do with something that the United States government was going to have Utah secede from the union or something because there was one what's it called, polygamy, and
polygamy. Mhm.
there was the race issue, and then all of a sudden, whoever was in charge of the church at the time had a revelation and declared that blacks were now allowed into the church and that they were going to separate from polygamy and stuff like that. I was raised very Catholic, and I, like you, had a similar journey where I decided to distance myself. But I will say this: there were some core elements that did bring me value. So it's not all negative, it's not all positive. I leave religion open to the individual. I want to
I
touch
think
on.
oh, go.
Go ahead, Thais.
Well, I was gonna say, I think even in the Mormon religion, like not to poo-poo on everything, but I think there's some good things about it too. Like the family dynamic. I mean, my mom's still very much in that state of mind where family is really important, right? And so I think there's positive and negatives, but at the same time, like sometimes the negatives outweighs the positives, and it sucks that has to be that way.
I still brought on, how I raised the kids certain ways and things that, like you said, family dynamic and the Mormon religion is like number one. I mean, you know, you those are things that I took away from it. But other than that, I just the certain beliefs, I just couldn't do. So
Yeah.
I just there were things when the Proposition 8 thing were out that the kids had, once he would turn 18, he would have to denounce his parents.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think that was recent, wasn't it? So,
it was pretty
yeah, I
recent,
think that
but
was.
not too recent, because then that's when I chose to remove myself from the church. And to remove yourself from the church, it's like you have to have like a written letter notarized. And
Mhm.
my brother was an attorney, so I was lucky to be able to, and he was gay. He's the gay one, but he was able to write up something, have it, I signed it, me and my older son, and then we sent it to the church, and we haven't been contacted since, except to say, we accept your removal from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So
I want to quickly invite the listener or the reader, if the viewer, if I've said or we've said anything that you don't subscribe to, you don't align to, please feel welcome to drop in your comments. For example, I just shared some very broad insight as to what happened with the Mormon church in terms of gay. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I'm open to debate, healthy, polite, respectful debate, please. I want to switch now to the racial issue, right? So you're a white Mormon woman dating
yes.
a black man. I've been through the experience as a black man dating white women. My ex-wife was a white woman, and I felt the racial tension on both sides. It's this sort of awkward position where you're frowned upon by both sides of the equation. What was that journey like for you, especially in the Mormon church? Or did this
It
happen?
was, so I grew up in Canada, and it was an all-white town there. In 91, we moved here, and or actually 90. And I had to finish off half of my junior year and then my senior year here. So it was the first time I ever saw a Black person. So I've gone my whole life to the age of, 15 and a half, 16, and never seen a Black person. But the funny thing is, and I didn't even put these together until my brother had said something. He said, when you were little, you always wanted the black pound puppy, the toy. I had a black Cabbage Patch doll. I had everything was around something different that nobody else would have. And so I don't know, for me, it didn't even bother me. Like I just, yeah, it bothers other people, like I've been with my husband, and it goes both ways. Black girls have said, "Ooh, why are you with her?" Or, white people do the same thing. So it's on both sides. So even though, you know, um, I'm white, I get it too. So, why are you with him? What, he's supposed to be with a Black woman. They
Similar
want to
question
keep the
I asked,
cultural things the same.
similar question I asked Tyus about the why people are afraid of homosexuality, of gay people. What is the fear, the hate, not everybody, but some people against blacks in particular? What do you think it stems from?
Ignorance.
It goes simply back, it's that simple,
Uh,
just ignorance?
I think it's ignorance, because there's a lot of things I have learned that I never knew. Like just by talking to my husband and his auntie and things like that, she tells me so many things. Like it's interesting to me. So, and also I wanted to be able to talk to my kids about it. Like in our house, we don't eat pork in our house, and I didn't know why. I just never made it. So finally one day I asked my husband, I said, why is it that you don't eat pork? I thought it was for health reason because he was in football, and he said no. He's like, the reason I don't eat pork is because growing, in slave times, that the homeowners, they would eat the good parts of the pigs or whatever, and then give the bad parts to the slaves to eat. And so for him, I think that just symbolized a dirty meat, if you must, something that he didn't want. And there's a lot of them that feel that way, a lot of Black people that feel that way. And I just never knew that. I always wondered. And, so I always made turkey bacon. And I mean, that's a lot healthier anyway, but
It's generational trauma that is passed on. And
yes.
it can be genetically and intellectually as well. But I didn't know
Yes.
that about African Americans, Black Americans.
Yeah.
So, Thais,
Yeah.
back to you about your cultural identity. White mum, Black father, you're right there in the middle. Is it a question of what side do I take? I'm in the middle. I embrace both. I am both. I'm neither.
Mhm.
What's that feel like?
I mean, for me personally, I just always embrace both, but also I see, I don't want to be controversial, but I always grew up looking at the world in a way that was colorblind, and I know like there's stigma on, we can't erase race, but for me personally, I mean, I just always looked at people as people and not by the context of their skin color, right? And that's just the way I've always been going through the world, I never saw myself as like more or just identifying as Black or just identifying as white. That's just something that I never really had intentions of thinking about from my own perspective. It'd be interesting to see if Dalen would have thought the same thing. I
That's
think,
my other son.
yeah, sorry.
But
But that's just sort of where I've always looked at the world in that sense.
yeah, and I never taught them to
Go
be
ahead.
one way or the other. I was very open with my kids. I let them see, feel, whatever, things. So because I was open to conversations, with them. We have a lot of conversations even now. I mean, my oldest son is 31. He's getting to 29. But
Do I like it though? I don't know.
Get to the age of 29. I want to quickly touch on the level of romance now.
Oh,
What does that look like?
near her or with
Well,
her.
no, I know Vonda's married, and that part I know. Let's focus on you, the romantic aspect. You're gay. Would you have kids? Would you adopt kids? Would you want to get married?
Yeah, well, definitely marriage. I think I definitely want to be married.
Why? Why,
I
why would you want to be married?
I just always wanted to be. I don't know. I just think, I'm gosh, in the it's in the gay community, I was gonna say a lot of times things are very open relationship. Like there's a lot of open relationships in the gay community, and that's fine for some people. I've always been very monogamous though in my approach to things, and just marriage has always been something that I wanted. I think that we fought for gay marriage for a reason. I'm not saying that that's the reason, but that is something that I just feel like, it's a celebration of love. There's obviously legal reasons to want to be married and to be tied down with someone. But really it's just a symbol of love, and I want to share that with someone one day, right?
When it comes to when it comes to
Oh,
legal gay marriage, it's been confusing because each state kind of did it individually. Like some states it was legal. I know that with biracial marriage is quite different. In 1967, there was Loving versus Virginia, where that's when biracial marriage became officially legal. And I don't know what the state of legal marriage is now in the United States with gay marriage. Is it every state is now legal? Is it still?
it's every state now. It's recognized federally, so you can get married anywhere. Of course, there's been times where people have tried to take it away, but I mean, knock on wood, we don't have wood, but I don't think it'll ever, hopefully, ever be taken away. But it's just something that I feel like, in 2015 we were able to get gay marriage legalized in the States here, and now it's like I don't know, it's just something even when I was younger, before 2015, like I saw myself doing, and that's something that I want to be able to partake in one day, and I don't know when that day will come, but we'll see. But also your other question about if I wanted to have kids, I do. I don't know. In my life situation right now, I'm actually planning on going back to nursing school now. That's something that, I'm planning on doing. And so we'll see if that, by the time I'm 30, I'll be out of nursing school. So we'll see. I don't know.
Here's some marriage advice. Marriage is grand, divorce is 50 grand. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
So
that sounds about right.
yes, in closing, I want to finish with relationships. Go back to the biracial. This is predominantly for you, Vanda. You're married to a black man. How, as a white woman, what did you need to do to understand what it is like for a black man living in America? How did you have to adapt your culture? What did he have to do to adapt to you so that you could build a sustainable relationship?
Well, I have to be honest, when I moved here, I never heard of racism. And so that was a whole new thing for me. But I didn't really know what it was, honestly, because I grew up in like a white town, and I mean there were Native Americans on, or in the town too, and we got along with all of them. So I don't know. I just feel like maybe it was just interesting to me to see, people hate on other people. For me, it's never been a problem, but I don't know how to explain it.
Did you have to make efforts to listen and learn from his experience, or was it just the same basic format of any relationship where you just have to listen to each other and be there supportive for each other? Because I believe the dynamics are different, even if it's a racial difference, even if it was a linguistic difference, a country difference, you have to adapt to somebody else's culture.
Yeah,
So
like I gotta be honest with you. I didn't I don't know, with me and my husband Zoe, we just never really I never talked about it really, because here in Vegas it's not near as bad as if you go down south. Like here I felt like the people that came here, like if we were down on the strip for dinner or doing dinner in a show or something, yeah, you get the eye looks and you get, and then afterwards, me and my husband will have a conversation about it. But
you did talk about it. So what were those conversations like? Because they're painful, they're awkward.
they are. And I felt like a lot of it was geared towards me. And I didn't understand why. Like, it kind of put me in a place where, like, here I am with the NFL player, and then there's me who really grew up in like a small town. Now I'm in city life, and why are those girls looking at me like I did something wrong? And he's like, well, like black people want to be with black people. They want to keep it in their culture. And I'm like, but so there is racism on both sides, clearly. But when it comes to, I noticed like my older son did debate, and he'd come home with the topics. And that's actually when I really started learning a lot about it. And he would either have to fight the positive or the negative side. So he wouldn't know until he got there. So we had to sit down, and I learned so much from him doing that, because before that, things just went out. I didn't think anything about it. And then being with him, I mean, he was gone for half the year while he was playing football and stuff. So I didn't really feel a lot of that. But once he retired and we would go, and, it was different.
How long have you
And,
guys been
and
together
I
now?
felt, um, 25 years, I think now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
closing, I'll just share a thing about biracial. There's one of my favorite comedians, Trevor Noah. He's South African. And he wrote a book called Born a Crime, because I believe it was his mother is African, his father is white, but they were legally not allowed to be married and be together. So he was born a crime. And he shares some of the stories of how him as a child, he had to navigate stories like, for example, they could never walk as a family down the street. The mother would always have to walk up front and pretend to be the nanny, just some very strange dynamics. And I can imagine you also experienced some of that. Really, what I want to close by saying this, both of you, thank you for being so courageous and so vulnerable, so brutally honest and open. And there are a lot of people who experienced similar to you. And Tyus, thank you for sharing some insight into what it's like being a biracial kid, not a homosexual kid, a gay kid, and inspiring other kids maybe to have the confidence to talk to their parents about it. And maybe, Vanda, for you, you've probably inspired some parents to be more open-minded, to embrace their kids' sexuality. So this has been a wonderful talking experience for me. I've learned a lot from you both. In closing, any final thoughts that heterosexual men need to know about gayness, anything that white women, black men need to know about biracial relationships? Let's end on a positive, kumbaya, bring it all together. Any insights to share? In a perfect world, what should we do? How should we live?
Just let people be people, I think. I think everybody is different, no matter if you're white, black, Asian. Everybody was born this way, not, from Gaga. Everybody was born this way, right? So it's like, you know, just allow people to live the way that they want to live. And if it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect you. No matter what happens in someone's bedroom, that has nothing to do with you. You don't have to be in it, if you're not in it, right? So just allow people to be who they want to be. And also on the flip side of that coin, like if someone is religious or if someone's conservative, like, or whatever the case is, I don't care. Like that's how they want to live their life. And so we live, well, I don't know, not everybody lives in America, but in America, right? Like everybody lives in a free country where people should be able to be who they want to be, right?
Totally
So
agree.
yeah.
Beautifully
Yeah.
said. Anything else to add, Mama?
Just, love your kids. I mean, no matter who they are, what they are, if you support them, you can have very successful members of society, whether you're gay, mixed, whatever it may be. Just please, please love your kids.
I love that.
And then you will reap the benefits of them.
I love that. What a beautiful way to end. Both of you, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye, Vital.